Welcome into the Wednesday, September 24th edition of Blue Sky Live. I'm Neal McCready. I got a couple of guests coming your way on today's show. Ryan McGee, senior writer for ESPN. He is the producer, the host of the Mini Lives of Lane Kiffin, which debuts this evening on ESPN, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. It'll be available on the ESPN app after that. I've seen it. So I watched it on Monday, watched an advanced copy. And I told Ryan this. I normally don't like sports documentaries like that because they're kind of hokey, for lack of a better word. This one was really good. I think you'll enjoy it. It's going to challenge some people in the media to admit that a tired narrative is just that, very tired. We'll see if they can do that. My bet's against it. He'll join, and then after that, Matt Moscona of ESPN Radio in Louisiana, Locked On LSU, number of shows that Matt does. Matt's a good friend for both Chase and myself. Been on our show many times. We've been on his show many times. He'll join. We'll talk about Saturday's game between LSU and Ole Miss, 2:30, as early as 2:30 Central at Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. Ole Miss about a 2.5-point favorite right now. So we'll talk to Matt about that game and more. We talk about some changes for him, his thoughts around the league a little bit, his experience on the white horse after Florida State beat Alabama in the season opener. So we talk about all of those things as well. On a show that's brought to you each and every day by BlueSky. If you're coming in to Oxford, if you're leaving Oxford on Sunday after the game, stop by BlueSky in Oxford or in any BlueSky location across the state of Mississippi. Always clean, always convenient. You can fill up at the tank. You can fill up inside as well. Great beer selection. Got plate lunches, snacks, whatever you need to hit the road, pulling into town to get stocked for your tailgate. Ice, all of those things. They've got it at BlueSky throughout the state of Mississippi. I'm in the Clark Ford Studios. Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi. 662-257-1900. Call that number. Ask for my friend Corey Clark. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. It's right to the bottom line. There's no hassle. There's no haggle. You get your quote, and at the end of the quote, you can do with it what you will. You can shop it around, or you can do what I've done many times. I guess 4 people out of the 5 people in my family are driving Clark Fords, so you can drive one too. You'll love it. Great service, great products. Corey and the people at Clark Ford want to be your car guy. They want to be your truck guy. They'll prove to you what that means when you make the call. 662-257-1900. Ryan McGee, Matt Moscona, other guests join on the Campbell Clinic hotline. From fractures and sports injuries to complex spine and limb conditions, the pediatric orthopedic physicians at Campbell Clinic in Oxford are the only specialized pediatric orthopedic team in North Mississippi providing expert care for growing bodies. Visit campbellclinicoxford.com to schedule an appointment or call 901-759-3111. There was some news yesterday before we get to Ryan. SEC released the opponents, not the actual schedule, but the opponents that everyone in the league will play over the next 4 seasons, as Chris Lowe, formerly of ESPN, now on 3, first reported earlier in the week. Ole Miss's permanent opponents, 3 permanent opponents are LSU, Mississippi State, and Oklahoma. That report was very accurate, as you might have expected. Ole Miss will actually play LSU at home again next season, so the Tigers come to Oxford 2 years in a row. On the flip side, Ole Miss will go back to Oklahoma next season as well, so 2 consecutive trips to Norman. Just the way the schedule works. In 2026, next season, Ole Miss will play. I don't know the order. The order's not out yet. I think the order's coming out sometime early December. But Ole Miss will play home games against LSU, Mississippi State, Auburn, Georgia, and Missouri. They'll travel, as we mentioned, to Oklahoma, Florida, Vanderbilt, and Texas. In 2027, Ole Miss will have home games against Oklahoma, Alabama, Kentucky, and South Carolina. So 5 home games in 2026, 4 in 2027, 4 road games in 2026, 5 in 2027. They'll go to LSU, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Tennessee, and Texas A&M. In 2028, Ole Miss will have 5 home games. They'll play LSU, Mississippi State, Florida, Vanderbilt, and Texas in Oxford. They'll hit the road to go to Oklahoma, to Auburn, Georgia, and Missouri. And then in 2029, Ole Miss will have 4 home games. They'll play Oklahoma, Arkansas, Tennessee, and Texas A&M in Oxford, and they'll travel 5 times in the league. They'll go to LSU, Mississippi State, Alabama, Kentucky, and South Carolina. So if you're making your plans, you can sort of plan out the next 4 years. Not the dates, but you'll know where Ole Miss is going, who they're playing here in Oxford. So I've had people ask me in mailbag form, was there a winner or a loser and all that stuff? No, league play is just going to be hard. I've said this. I'm not. I hope I don't come across as an apologist for the SEC, but that was an impossible job. There was no way to make everyone happy. You've got the years where you have 5 games, followed by the years where you have 4 games at home in terms of league play. It is what it is. I think the fact that they only went 4 years out might tell you something. Might not. I kind of think it might, but we'll see. I expect there will be dramatic changes, sort of headed your way, headed the SEC's way over the next 5 years or so. I think there will be realignment by 2030. It's just my opinion. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Again, we're going to go to the Campbell Clinic hotline now. Ryan McGee is going to join. I think you'll really enjoy the documentary tonight. Hopefully I did a decent job previewing it with him. Super guy. Always. He and I don't really know each other. We have some mutual friends, though. We're both good friends with Taylor Zarzer, who lives in Charlotte, as Ryan does. Taylor and I did radio in Mobile together and have stayed in contact, stayed friends over all these years. So we didn't talk about that, but we did have some commonality as we got started. So here's Ryan McGee of ESPN on the Campbell Clinic hotline. Ryan McGee, I guess ESPN senior writer, among other things. Marty and McGee, there's a lot there. You probably recognize Ryan's face if you watch Southeastern Conference football, basketball, that kind of thing. Kind enough to join us. Ryan, first, thanks for being with us. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, and yeah, Marty and McGee. I always celebrate. My first name is Ann. I'm Ann McGee, so I'll take that.
Well, I do one with it's McCready and Siskey, and if they turned it around and said it was Siskey and McCready, I would know what you mean because it's everyone goes Tyler's show, and I'm like, yeah,
right.
I'm the one whose name's also on that show, but it's okay.
Well, it's funny. Well, it's funny too because people will call me Marty. Like I'll go to a game with my daughter and we'll be, hey Marty, and it makes her so mad. I go, no, people think that's my first name because it's Marty and McGee. There's a horse handicapper named Marty McGee. And there's a judge here around Charlotte where I live named Marty McGee. And we had Marty McGee, the horse handicapper, on the show. And he was really excited about it. We can't get the judge to come on. So, but there aren't many Marty McGees out there. But I'll tell as long as they call me something other than a curse word, I'll take whatever I can get.
I understand that completely. The Many Lives of Lane Kiffin, your E60 on ESPN comes out Wednesday night. I guess we're taping this on Tuesday early afternoon. It's interesting to me. I told you this. I watched the advanced copy that you guys were kind enough to send. I guess I watched it on Monday, and I told you I normally don't like a lot of sports documentaries because I don't know. Hokey's the word that I use with you. I can't think of a better word. I don't know that that's the right word, but a lot of times they're a little too sappy. And we make sports people out to sort of be heroes. And you and I both know because we work around these people that they're not always heroes. They're complicated beings. I thought the one on Lane was really well done. I know it wasn't just you, but you did a lot of it. And to get him to open up the way that you did, that was really, really well done. I think people, when they get a chance to watch the doc, the show, they're really going to enjoy it because it's complex. You were able to make a human's life more than more than just like some stereotype. You were able to kind of get even beyond the football coach portion of him and sort of get to the actual human.
Well, I really appreciate you saying that, and and that starts with, I mean, listen, Neal, we can only do so much with the questions or with what we write or with what we produce. They have to give you something, and so we went to Oxford, and you kind of cross your fingers. Is he going to open up or isn't he? And the primary interview that you see, that's kind of the backbone of the documentary, was actually done a few times over a couple of days in the same room. And from the moment he sat down in the chair, he opened up. And I know that he has addressed, it's called the many lives of Lane Kiffin, right? I know he's addressed those lives individually in different places, but this is the only time I know of where he hit every station, right? From when he played at Fresno State, even when he was a kid with his father, the legendary Monty Kiffin, to a couple of stints at USC, to the Tennessee mess, to Al Davis having the weirdest press conference of all time, railing on him for an hour with like a slideshow presentation, and he hit all of those. And then, I think you and I probably have the same problem with a lot of sports documentaries, which is it feels manufactured at the end. Sometimes there's this whole, let's get these two guys that don't like each other to go to lunch, or something that's clearly staged. And with this, that was not the case. Everything that happened with Lane and the family and everyone, it was very organic. I mean, he invited us to come to family dinner, which you see in the documentary. That's what they do every week. I mean, his backyard and his brother Chris, who's on the staff, their backyards back up to each other. And that's the house that his parents used to live in. And so he was just genuine. And listen, I'm not foolish. I went to Tennessee. I'm married to a Knoxville girl. She's very mad at me for even working on this. We're not going to convince those people that 100% that he's a changed person, but he is. And as you know now, I mean, he addresses all of these things, and that's a gift, man. As an interviewer, you have those interviews sometimes where you feel like you're pushing a boulder up a hill.
Yeah.
And then you have those interviews where about halfway through it, you think, I think we might have something special here. And I'm very appreciative that he opened up with me.
What was the inspiration for you to do this? What led you to go, hey, let's dive deep on Lane Kiffin?
Well, Jason Costura, who's the co-director on the film, along with Maddie, he is a huge college football guy. And he came to me, gosh, probably 2 years ago. And Jason and I had worked together in 2021. We did an E60 about Dale Earnhardt called The Intimidator. And it's one of my favorite things I've ever worked on in 30 years in this business. And Jason came to me and said, well, I want to do a college football documentary. What should we do? And my response was Lane Kiffin. And he was already thinking that. And it's because he's so polarizing. And everyone thinks they know him, but no one really knows him. I mean, y'all know down there, everything's at arm's length. But when he talks, he's pretty sincere. But you still kind of wish there was something more that he would share. And so we went to Lane, gosh, I mean, it might have been 2 years ago, at least a year and a half ago. And he initially was like, I don't really want to do this right now. The timing's not right. He thought he had a chance to win a national championship a year ago. So he didn't want to really, he was wanting to focus on that. And also now we know his father had been ill, Monty, and his mother passed away almost exactly a year later, 2024 to 2025. And honestly, too, what helped me was that the Netflix show came out, which is great. That's a great show. He's not in it. He declined. And part of my pitch to Lane was, well, I can give you your own hour, and none of these other guys will be in it. And I think that he appreciated that opportunity. And at the beginning, I just thought it was Lane being Lane, and yeah, I get an hour to myself. But now I know we've talked about this. He genuinely wants to put his life out there because he thinks it might help some people with their family, if they're battling alcohol, work-life balance. He really is very serious about maybe someone will watch this on ESPN or on the app, and it'll make them maybe alter the way that they approach their life, and we'll see.
Yeah, that was the stuff that I found the most interesting. I don't know how much you know about my background, but I was in Mobile when Jamarcus Russell was going through college and all of that stuff, and I knew a lot of the people around Jamarcus. And I wasn't surprised when he was a bust in the NFL. That's not a reflection on him as a human being. It happens, but he didn't have the greatest support system in the world. And I remember I was actually in New York covering that draft. And I remember when he went one, I'm thinking, man, there's a real chance this is a disaster. And sure enough, it was. And so that part of like the Kiffin story, it's kind of explainable to me. The Tennessee thing, he left for his dream job. You know, it came open 14 months after he'd been in Knoxville, and he took it because, as he told you in the doc, he didn't want to be watching on television going, I could have had that. That could have been me. The part that I found most interesting was the stuff about his divorce and the stuff about giving up alcohol. He didn't refer to himself as an alcoholic at all. He just talked about how he used it to numb, to distance himself from things. And that's difficult for anyone, whether you live in the public sphere or not, to sort of open up and talk about like that.
Yeah, and who moves to Oxford and gets sober? No one, right? Of all the places in the world. And so there's a discipline to that. And one of the things that he's talked about too is wanting to be his best for his dad and what he knew was going to be his dad's last years, and his mom, and they all were living in Oxford. And then it was looking for a way to improve himself as a father, which he has done tremendously. I mean, for folks that don't know, Knox, his son, is a freshman in high school, moved from Los Angeles to Oxford. Landry, who has made some headlines this week, but Landry, who's in the documentary, Landry moved to Oxford to do her senior year of high school and live with her dad, and then go to Ole Miss. And as you learn in the documentary, every Ole Miss fan, if they see Landry, forget who she's dating. You should thank her because he's the reason that he's not at Auburn, or she's the reason he's not at Auburn right now.
I'm getting ready to dig in on that with you for a little bit, because that's been a conversation. I don't want to interrupt.
But even
your answer.
No, but even Layla, his ex-wife, she has a place in Oxford now, and like I said, Chris Kiffin and his family are there. Their parents were both there until they passed away in the last 2 years, and so he was very open, and we put this out in their preview clips that we put out over the last couple of weeks leading to the premiere. I'm paraphrasing, but he kind of looked down his nose at the pace of Oxford, and is this going to be too slow for me? And now he realizes after 6 years that slower pace is what gave him the bandwidth to not just worry about football, which, by the way, they're really good and have been the whole time, but also it gave him the time and the space to work on himself and work on his relationship with his kids and work on his relationship with his ex-wife and work on his relationship with all these people. And so I think that, again, I'm appreciative of his openness for it, but I'm glad you said that, because we're allowed to evolve, right? And we're allowed to grow and to change and to learn, right? And Lane and I are about the same age. And so I'm kind of at this crossroads too. All right, what's your legacy going to be? And it's not going to be what you did for work. It's going to be what you leave at home. And so the pace of Oxford is what allowed him to do that.
And that's a hard thing to accept for any of us. I mean, no matter what your station in life is, if you're, especially, I don't know, I don't mean this to sound sexist, and these are my words, not yours, especially for men, sometimes in culture, it's all about, how far you make it in your field, how much money do you make. That's how we judge each other sometimes, and it's not about the kind of dad that you are, the kind of husband you are, the leader you are for your family. Those are things that sometimes people don't figure out until it's too late. And maybe for him, it was approaching too late when he started to figure it out, and he sort of squeezed a lot of it back in.
Yeah. No, your kids start getting grown, and what do they always, I say this all the time, my dad's the smartest guy I know, and I'm at that age now where everything my dad told me when I was growing up that I thought was a bunch of crap, it's all coming true, all of it. And I remember my dad saying to me years ago, he said, as you get older, he said, the years turn into months, and the months turn into weeks, and the weeks turn into days, and the days turn into hours. And I'm like, okay, whatever, old man. And now it's the truth. I got a grown daughter, right? I mean, I'm you get in your 50s and you're like, man, how did that happen? And I think that helped in the conversations with Lane. And Lane and I were kind of around each other as kids. He doesn't remember me, but I remember him. And I think us being kind of in that same age bracket, with daughters that are the same age, I think that helped in this conversation, because, you talk about station in life, it's where I am too. I just haven't quite had the spotlight that he's had. And so, yeah, you start asking, all right, what are they going to remember about me? And who's even going to remember me at all? And who's going to remember you are going to be your kids and hopefully your grandkids. And hopefully they'll tell the next generation that, you were a good guy and not the opposite.
Let's talk about the Auburn thing a little bit. You mentioned Landry and the presentation she put together. I was in Fayetteville on that Saturday night before that all unfolded that next week. Arkansas just blitzed Ole Miss in the first half of that game and then won by 15 points or something. There was a lot of controversy here about the ESPN broadcast with Cole Kubelik and all of those guys for talking about Lane going to Auburn as if it was a fait accompli. And I've always kind of made people mad here by saying, look, guys, if you were there on that Saturday night, you believed he was going. Yep. And I did. And listening to Landry, it's clear that she believed it as well and set out with some of her friends to change her father's mind. And to be clear, Lane doesn't come out in your show and say, yeah, I was going. But
yeah. But what he says is, and I tweeted this clip out on Tuesday morning. What he says is, he says, I'm not saying I was going or I wasn't, but I certainly wasn't going after that. And so, no, it's very easy to kind of retcon the thing and go, oh, he was never going to leave. But I'm telling you right now, his daughter thought he was going to leave. She was mad, and basically, essentially, what she said to him was, I moved here. My senior moved from Southern California to Oxford, Mississippi for my senior year in high school, and now you're going to leave and go to Auburn? I mean, I moved here for you. And this is kind of going to what we were talking about a few minutes ago, which is, all right, what should your focus be here? And I give him credit because he recognized there was something special, potentially special. And if you've ever watched, Landry's TikTok, then you see her and her dad sitting in her dad's office, joking around. And that relationship just didn't exist 5 years ago. And now it does. And so I guarantee you, I can tell you as a dad, 20 years from now, you're going to want to have that moment. And instead of asking, well, how many games could I win on going to Auburn? And it also doesn't hurt that, all due respect to Johnny Vaught and Archie Manning, this is arguably the greatest stretch in the history of Ole Miss football. And you're winning double-digit games most every year. That helps. When you're winning, you can have a lot more clarity of mind, and you can figure out where you can fit in these other things. But you would much rather live and watch Knox play high school football, where he just started this fall, and watch your daughter walk around campus and come. She's in the football building all the time, working out, hanging out in his office. I remember going to Colorado, and it was Deion Sanders' second year and first year. And he said to me, he said, "You're a dad, right?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "My daughter's taking a nap on my office couch. I got a son on the team. I got another son working for the team." He goes, "It's the first time we've all been in the same place at the same time." He goes, "Why would I leave this to go to the NFL?" Because that was the rumor at the time. And I felt that way talking to Lane. He's like, "Why would I mess with this right now?" And I believe him. I might be wrong when we get to December, but as of right now, I believe him.
No, I do too. I think, Ryan, we always talk about crossroads in life. And yep. I don't know that you realize you're at a crossroads sometimes when you get to one. I mean, sometimes you get to one and it's obvious you're at a crossroads.
Yeah.
But sometimes you sort of get to a fork in the road and you don't really see it. And you just it's more one of those, it's not really a fork. It's more like a this, you can't.
Right.
If you're listening, you don't see my hands, and I apologize. It makes a really bad interviewer. It's why I'm doing
it. It's a squiggly line. Right. Yeah.
Ryan's at ESPN. But I think he did one of those deals where he just sort of stayed on the path, even though there was this turn that he could have taken right there that, in my opinion, I cover the beat. I've been around him, around the program pretty much every week for the last 6 years. I think he's been more focused since then.
Yep.
In some ways, I think that was he was at this place and he had this cathartic thing happen that week. And since then, I think there's been this kind of peace that's come over him. I I don't sense this, and I could be wrong too. You and I could both be talking to each other again in December going, well, son of a bitch. But
yeah,
I sense more peace, more contentment, more fulfillment, more, hey, I might actually sort of like this place. Maybe this place he always says this, he needed Oxford more than Oxford needed him. And I think when he says that, I think he genuinely means it.
Oh, I know that he does. I mean, I just, we can all kind of tell when they're selling you lines and when they really mean it. And he's repeated that a lot because he wants everyone to understand that. And I tell you this, I can't remember if I've told the story about it or not, but I remember the last night, like when you see in the documentary the family all eating dinner together. That was really the last night of our shots with him. And this was this was mid to late summer, and I kind of was saying, hey, man, I got to go. I'm headed to Memphis to fly home. And we talked in his driveway, and he said, I genuinely hope that this helps some people. And he means it. I mean, and that's and this wasn't on camera. There was no benefit to, he knows I'm going to write this. There was no benefit for us to have that conversation. It was just us. And I think he genuinely means it, whether it's convincing someone whose life is clouded by alcohol to not do that, or convincing someone to take better care of themselves physically, which he's done with the hot yoga and working out, all those things. But the real thing is you can do the work-life balance, even in the job that created this idea of, Joe Gibbs sleeping on the couch when he was with the Redskins, all those things. It's that image we have of the college football coach, but you can still make it work at home. And he didn't for a really long time. And now he realizes before it's too late, he needs to take care of that. And that's what he's doing. And so genuine is the word, like sincere is the word. And again, we might be talking about him being in Gainesville 6 months from now. But I, as we sit here and talk right now, believe, and it doesn't hurt that, they win double-digit games a year, and it doesn't hurt they're undefeated, and it doesn't hurt that they're, winning with, a couple of different quarterbacks in a transition year. But I genuinely believe that he loves it there. And if he were to leave, I'm not sure what it would take for him to do that. And I'm not sure that scenario is going to exist anytime soon.
Yeah, I think I agree. And I was one of the people that thought absolutely he was going to Auburn. No question about it. You guys got Steve Sarkisian to sit down. You got Kirby Smart to sit down. Pete Carroll, Nick Saban. Maybe I'm leaving someone out. Those are the ones that come to mind. I thought that spoke volumes about Lane Kiffin, the guy, too. Maybe that because all of those people probably had good times and bad times with Lane, and they'd seen his life arc. And, I mean, Nick Saban basically parted ways with him the week of a national championship game that they lost, and for those people to sit down and give you time and to open up and talk about him as candidly as they did, I thought that was kind of profound, Ryan, honestly.
Yeah, and they all like him, even at times if they drove him. I mean, Jeff Tedford's in there, Fresno State, even at times when maybe he drove them a little crazy, they ultimately like him. And I think they all recognize, too, I know Nick Saban does, how much he has, go back to that word, evolved, and how much he has changed. And Nick Saban has a lot to do with that. With Marty McGee would call it the Nick Saban coaching rehab facility, right? Sarkisian was there. All these guys come there and they're coordinators and they go be head coaches somewhere after supposedly their career's over. And but they all recognize that. But they also love the fact that there's still Old Lane is in there, right? Old Lane is still the one that, they have this SEC coaches group chat. And Lane won't say anything for a week, and all of a sudden he'll drop a text that just cracks the whole room up. I remember Dan Lanning, who I just saw in Oregon last week. Dan Lanning, I did a thing about after Saban had retired, who should be the face of college football. And Dan Lanning goes, Lane Kiffin. He goes, number one, because he's smart and a good football coach, but number two, for entertainment value. And that's how I think everybody kind of feels about it. But everyone recognizes it. You can't. And you know this, and Ole Miss is a challenging job. There's a reason when you go into Vaught-Hemingway that there's not a lot of years that are up on the wall, right? And most of it was from the 60s. The most recent was the co-division championship.
Yeah, I mean, the most recent one is the one that people make fun of the most, because you put up with 2003 Western Division co-champions and the other
you didn't get to go to Atlanta
by beating you. Yeah, I mean,
right. And so So it's a really, really difficult job. And so to do what he has done, and you give the school credit too, because these days everybody's got to pony up, or otherwise you can't do your job. But they continue to give him the resources, and he continues to maximize that. And players want to play for him. Like I tell you, one of the biggest things, we all bemoan the transactional time of college football that we're living in, but you talk to, the quarterbacks that are playing for Lane Kiffin, and it's when they talk about him, it's like they're talking about their older brother, not just a football coach or even like a father figure. And you see the way that he reacts with, Corral and Jackson and all those guys. They love him, and that's not just the quarterbacks; it's everyone. And so, if they want to leave, they can leave. Most of them don't, and so to me, that speaks volumes about who he is too. Guys want to play for him because, despite what we tell, what we write about and talk about, that coach-player relationship is still really important, and that's what his dad was so great at. I mean, and he says it. He says, "I want people to remember me, even just a little bit, like they remember they talk about my dad." That's what he said at his dad's memorial service. And so, it's I told my daughter the other day. She asked me about being 50, and I said, "Wisdom has nothing to do with intelligence. Intelligence helps, but wisdom just means you've been around and seen some stuff." And Lane Kiffin has seen stuff standing on the sideline since he was born. And so I think all that's kind of adding up now to create this guy we know and see.
You probably can't answer this question, but it's more of an opinion. I think our field is very guilty of establishing a narrative, and we cannot deviate from said narrative. It's just that's the base storyline, and we stick to it. And it's where the Lane Kiffin, the Joey Freshwater, the Twitter Lane, which is a completely different person than real Lane. Do you think this I'm giving you a superpower here. Do you think this documentary will force some people, especially in the media, to sort of say, hey, he's not the cartoon character that we sort of try to make him out to be? He's a much more complicated person than that? Or do you think it's too late?
No. I think it's too late for a lot of people. I mean, I said, it's like I was saying earlier about my Knoxville people, right? They're not going to suddenly want to get his autograph, and they're certainly not going to not want to throw stuff at him when they see him when Ole Miss comes to town, like they did the last time he was there. But, and you're talking to the son. I'm the son of a long-time college referee, and I've written so much about officiating, written books about it, written stories about it. And I'm not so naive that I think I'm going to convince the world to love referees. But I think I can at least help them understand that they're complex people who are trying their best and who work really hard at it. And I kind of feel that same way about Lane, which is I'm not going to convince this hopefully large audience to suddenly like this guy that you've not liked since whenever, USC, Raiders, Tennessee, Fresno, pick one. But I think that we can at least through this documentary help you understand that, as you say, this is a complex person who is allowed to evolve and is allowed to change and is trying to do those things. And so I don't think the Lane Kiffin fan club is going to get a lot bigger with this, but I think we can at least help people understand who he is. And again, and that starts with the fact that he was so open with us and so honest with us, because I believed everything he said. Sometimes I'm a sucker because I lead with my heart instead of my head. But I also have been doing this for a long time and can kind of sniff out phoniness. And there was not any phoniness in these interviews.
Did it make you want to do hot yoga?
No, you know what? He wanted me to. One of our big interview days, the very next morning, he was going to do hot yoga. And he's like, well, you're staying, right? And you're going to do that with me. I'm like, no, dude. I go, number one, I'm not above trying it. I'll try it. And he looks great. I mean, he really does.
He does.
And whatever he's doing at 50 years old with washboard abs, we probably should listen to him and try it. But I sure as hell wasn't going to be doing that on camera. For the first time I'm ever going to do that, 110 degrees and all that stuff, I'm going to do that on TV. Not a chance. And so, I'll go back and try it sometime, but I wasn't going to do it on camera.
Yeah, I've watched his physical evolution, and as a former fat guy who still battles fat,
Yeah.
I've watched him and been like, man, I should try that. And then I just don't have, I can't get over the mental hurdle of going into a room full of a lot of like college age girls who look at me like, what are you doing here? Like, I can't kind of
Yeah.
get over that part. For him, that
Yeah.
clearly is not an obstacle.
You know what's cool too is, so I remember I grew up in Raleigh, and when Monty Kiffin's only head coaching job was at NC State when I was a kid, my dad had just started as an ACC official. So my dad would work we couldn't work he could work NC State games because we lived in Raleigh. That's the rule. But he could work all the scrimmages. So he would take me and my brother over to Carter Finley Stadium, and that's where I first met Lane. I was like 10, he's probably 6, and we're playing pickup football, the coaches' kids and the officials' kids. But I remember clear as a bell Monty talking about he needed a good sweat. And he, all the way up until he passed away, would go sit in the sauna in the steam room and just sweat. And that makes all the sense in the world that Chris and Lane, his boys, would go do hot yoga because that's kind of the modern version of what their dad always did. And so, yeah, I'm with you, dude. I'm working on it too, but I need I do a cycling class. It's pretty much me and every suburban mom in Charlotte. So I guess it would be the same. The only difference is I'll be bent in half, and I don't know if I'm ready to do that.
Yeah, Chris looks good too. He's started to drop some
No,
serious weight. He looks fabulous since he started it. I mean, he'll
I
probably
watch those guys play pickleball, and I saw the competitive Lane come out. By the way, I mean he's out there yelling at these guys, and including his son out there playing pickleball, and it reminded me of that kid I saw playing pickup football in Raleigh, 40 years ago. But but yeah, no, they both look great. But I'm telling you, not to get creepy, when I saw those guys playing pickleball, I was like, whatever they're doing, we should probably try it because those guys look great and we're the same age.
I'm about out of time with you, and I appreciate your time. You've been awesome. You bring up the word competitive with Lane. It's the thing that I like right now as we record this on Tuesday. There's all this discussion around here about who's going to play quarterback on Saturday. Is it Austin Simmons? Is it Trinidad Chambliss? Whatever. And my answer to this, and I know it's not great for podcasts, probably for maintaining an audience, is that guy's going to play the guy that he thinks is going to give him the best chance to win the game. I mean, period.
Yep.
The end. That doesn't mean that they'll win. It doesn't mean that it'll end up being the quote right decision, end quote. But if you think there's a soul on earth more competitive than that guy who wants to win this game and get to the playoffs more than that guy, you just don't understand.
So I've told this story before. Lane denies it, but his father, Monty, completely backed me up on it. At Carter Finley Stadium in Raleigh, there used to be just this grass hill in one end zone. That's where the field house is now, where the team runs out. But back then it was just this grass hill. That's where we would play pickup football as kids. And again, I'm like 10 and my brother was like 7. And there was this one kid that we're playing with, pickup football. And he's calling DPIs and holding and screaming at everybody because they're running the wrong pass routes. And I remember his dad running the length of the field and blowing his whistle and going, Lane, damn it, shut up. You're killing my practice. And so fast forward a couple of decades, and my brother calls me and he goes, I think that mouthy kid from NC State just got the Raiders job. And but that's the kid I saw when he was 6.
Yeah.
And then when I saw him playing pickleball on campus just a couple months ago, he came over to me and he was so mad because he thought he got cheated on the last game winning point or whatever. And he came over to the fence. And I go, just so you know, I said, when you deny that story about when you were 6, I go, that's the kid I met right there. That you right then, that's the same one. And that's the same guy I see on the sideline. So yeah, no one should ever question. You're exactly right. Whatever it is that he's doing it because he thinks that's going to help him win football games. And yeah, it's again, the many lives and he's a complicated guy. And I appreciate him being so open and honest with us about it.
All right, very last thing, I promise. You got to do talkings at some point this weekend. At some point, are you guys going to have to address the Landry Kiffin Whit Weeks budding relationship on the week of the Ole Miss LSU game? And if so, Ryan, how the hell are you going to handle that? I'm curious.
Well, by the time we get to Marty McGee on Saturday, this thing's probably going to have run through the news cycle and be gone. But by the way, just we're talking about Lane Kiffin's not on Twitter as much as he used to be, and he's not the instigator or the smart aleck that he used to be on Twitter. But take the over is pretty good response. Take the over. Trey Wallace's buddy, man, I got to text him. To take the over is the perfect response. So he still has it in him. And if anybody questions how smart he is, you can't be that funny and not be smart. You know, the whole what's your mom's name, you know, at media days. I mean, and he's still so quick off the top of his head. And but yeah, and listen, as the father of a college student who is exactly Landry's age, he can say whatever he wants to say because it's difficult enough for me without it all being on Twitter or Instagram or whatever. So and you know with 100,000 followers or whatever it is she has. So yeah, but you know it's the latest twist in the Magnolia Bowl. You know, the coach dating the tight end from two different schools. But you know, good for that dude. She's amazing. So my favorite interview that we did, other than Lane, was Landry. I mean, she just is she's gonna be able to do whatever she wants to do once she gets out into the real world. So good for her.
Yeah, she and my daughter have mutual friends, and they all rave about what a fine person she is. So I'm with you. Hey, listen, thanks so much for the time. Really enjoyed it. I know everyone's looking forward to watching the documentary, and you did a great job with it. People are going to really enjoy it. Thanks.
I appreciate that, man, and thanks for having me. And we'll hopefully see you down there sooner than later.
I hope so. Thank you, Ryan. Hey, thank you, sir. I appreciate that very much. I hope I didn't keep you too long.
Not at all, man. That was a great conversation.
Where is it? Sorry about that. Shuffling around there, trying to find the right file. That was Ryan McGee. Appreciate his time quite a bit here on MPW Digital on the Campbell Clinic hotline. We're about to get back into it. Appreciate everybody in the stream, by the way. I enjoying this. Think you'll enjoy the next interview as well. Matt Moscona, longtime LSU. He's not really an LSU beat writer. He's not an LSU beat writer at all. He covers LSU, sort of. Louisiana-based radio talk show guy, Locked On LSU. After further review, a lot of things. A lot of people remember him as the host of Whiskey and Wine with T-Bob Hebert. We talk about that show no longer being in existence and more here on the Campbell Clinic hotline with Matt Moscona. Matt Moscona joins, as he always does, this week of the season, one of the fun weeks of the season, at least for me, Matt. I love LSU-Ole Miss game. I think it's fun. It's here lately, it's been a great game, and it's always just kind of cool. And Baton Rouge, Oxford, wherever, it's Lane Kiffin with some of the jabs that he takes. It's just kind of a fun week. And now we've got Whit Weeks dating Landry Kiffin. We got a lot of stuff to get to here. First, how are you?
Did you know that had happened?
So, okay, I hate myself for knowing this. My daughter, Caroline, one of her, she went to Arkansas, but a couple of her really, really good friends that she went to OHS went to Ole Miss. And one of those friends was at our house the Friday night before the Arkansas-Ole Miss game in Oxford. We'd gone to a party, and we'd come back, and she was here, and one of her friends. Anyway, we were all sitting around talking. It was fun. It's kind of the cool part about this stage of life is that, your kids are older, and so you can have a glass of wine with your kids, have a cocktail with your kids, and
they'll talk to you again.
And they'll talk to you again. Yeah, we're not stupid anymore.
Right.
And so they're telling me about Landry Kiffin being in Baton Rouge a lot to see Whit Weeks. And I was like, so that's a thing? And she's like, well, let me tell you. And she explains to me sort of the status of the relationship. And everything I hear about Landry Kiffin, by the way, is that she's an outstanding young woman, really smart, very funny, all of that. And so she's like, I think it's pretty early in their relationship, but all this stuff. And I was like, okay. And literally to the point where, and then I saw the social media thing with Whit's little sister and Landry apparently getting ready for the Louisiana Tech LSU game, which was roughly the same time.
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, I hate that I know these things, but I do. No, I know. And so to the point where I joked with people that should I ask Lane about it? Like I wanted to yesterday in Lane's Monday press conference. We're taping this on Tuesday morning. I don't know when you're going to see this, but we're taping on Tuesday morning. I almost asked Lane, or I thought about asking Lane, with prefacing it with, I hate myself for asking this, but
you have
to. Didn't. So I didn't. And then literally 2 hours later, they, as the kids call it, hard launch the relationship, meaning make it public that they are an item. And from all accounts, they're both wonderful young people. The fact that they're attracted to one another and have a relationship is not all that newsworthy, really, except for the fact that they did it on the Monday of the week that Witt's team is going to play Landry's dad's team in a pretty big football game in Oxford.
Apparently, Landry Kiffin learned how to troll from one of the best ever, which kudos to her for the time. Amazing. When I saw it, I was like, man. And then Lane's response, take the over.
Yeah.
I mean, peak. I don't have a daughter, but I can imagine. But good for him for having some fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it wasn't news to him yesterday that his daughter and Whit Weeks and getting to know one another. That was not breaking news to Lane Kiffin. But yeah, it's funny. It just I don't know about you, but like I never really know how to handle stuff like that. You know, like is that something we talk about? Does that make me creepy?
People I don't think I've talked about my wife is the one who's plugged into the Instagram, TikTok world and knows all the scoop. So I fully anticipate every detail of this courtship. I'll learn from my wife, not from my own firsthand knowledge.
Yeah. Hey, it gives the people in the TV broadcast another angle if they need one on Saturday.
I don't know that they're going to need one, but it would be funny if Witt ends up with like a 12, 15 tackle day as he is wont to do from time to time. Maybe makes a tackle into the Ole Miss bench right in front of Lane. That might cause the conversation there on the broadcast.
Yeah, that might get it rolling. All right, we're gonna get to the game and stuff in a minute. I am curious about your deal. T-Bob Hebert left to go to Barstool. How did that change the way you did that show that is, I know you're still doing it, that's wildly popular, that people either love it because they're LSU fans and when LSU wins, they get to go along. And then frankly, and you know this, when LSU loses, people tune in to hear the reaction and sort of, you know, watch the meltdown, which I always tell people, guys, some of this is pretty scripted. You're falling for it. But regardless,
I don't know, Neal. I think one of the beauties of that show is that none of that was scripted. I mean, toward the end, T-Bob started to bring in props. Like when LSU beat Arkansas, he had an inflatable pig that he did unbecoming things to, which ended up with the battery pack of the inflatable pig smacking me in the face repeatedly. I don't know, man. Like that show, I get why it was everybody's guilty pleasure. But quite honestly, I was going to tell T-Bob this year that I wasn't going to do it again, just to get a new I was going to step aside and have him get a new co-host. It's just a long day, man. It's when your whole day revolves around that show, it makes for a very long day. And quite honestly, Neal, I think most people can relate to this. I was the only sober guy in a bar. That's not a lot of fun. So, I mean, I'm sitting there charting every play of the game because somebody had to keep the thing on the rails while we were doing the show and have some semblance of conversation about the game. But I did it for a long time and actually did the show with Jordy Collada from 2017 through 2020, and then T-Bob picked up in 21. So I mean, I've done that show. Neal, I haven't been to a game in Tiger Stadium since 2017 because of that show. It surprised a lot of people when they hear that. So there's just some things I wanted to do. And so, I'll still fire up a live stream on my own personal channel after most of the games. There might be games I want to go to or times when I have family stuff that I won't be able to do it. But, I'm not beholden. I mean, you understand this, right? Especially when you have sponsors and, I mean, you are accountable to a lot of different people when you commit to doing something like that. And I didn't want to make that commitment. So, wanted a little bit more freedom on Saturdays for family and maybe to go to a game if I want to and just enjoy football Saturdays a little more than making it all work. But we had a great run, man. And if the opportunities comes around to do a one-off, if T-Bob's in town and Barstool lets him, and we could do it again I would do it in a millisecond. I just didn't want to be committed to doing every single week again the way we were structured before.
It's one of the things that I don't. And again, I'm not like seeking sympathy here, but it's at all because we're blessed to do what we do. But
yes,
Saturday when you work is a completely different experience than it is for the fan who goes to the game. When the game ends, the game's over. They can drink. They can go someplace afterwards. We do a post-game show on MPW Digital. Chase Parham hosts it. I refer to myself. People get mad at me. They say I'm being self-deprecating. I'm being serious. I'm the weak link on the show. I come in at the very end. I haven't heard the show or seen the show. I don't know what's been discussed. It's Tyler Siskey, Jeffrey Wright, Chase. And by the time I get there, it's been a couple hours, right? Because let's say Saturday. Game's going to start probably at 2:47. It's going to end around 6:20, one way or the other.
Yeah.
If it's like previous Ole Miss LSU games, it's not going to be decided very early. I mean, we're going to go into the fourth quarter going, hey, Ole Miss could win, Ole Miss could lose. That's been the case the last several years in this game. So, I'm going to get to the press conference, which especially if in a world where Ole Miss wins, it's going to be a minute before Lane gets there. Players will come after Lane. So it's 7-something getting out of there. I'm riding. I get up to the press box. I'm trying to produce content as fast as I can but also make it legible and put it out where the people who pay for Rebels 24/7 get what they pay for. And then by the time you finish with that, you get on a live stream and it's been a day. And the fatigue hits you a little bit. You can't help it. You just came off, in my case, sort of that rider's high. You covered a game. You got a lot going on in front of you. You're working on something. Now you're in the stadium, and the stadium's quiet and empty. And as opposed to what it was just 2 hours earlier, you've written, and now you've got to be funny or entertaining on a show, and it's hard to do. And everybody else, like the other people in that show, Jeffrey's been drinking, Tyler's been drinking. They're being, and it's hard. And you explain that to people and they don't understand why it's not still a party for you. And it's not because you haven't started the party yet. Like for you, I'm going to get home at the end of that and pour something into a glass and chill for a minute. Right. It's a totally different experience than what other people have had. And so, I know what you mean when you're the kind of the babysitter, for lack of a better word, of a show like that. It's exhausting.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'll never complain about getting to do what I do professionally. But the thing, we are super, super fortunate. I mean, there are people that build the railroad and dig ditches and do like real work. We talk about sports and write about sports. It's not a hard gig.
Right.
It is time consuming, and you're right. You do to a degree forfeit your fandom. Which is something I always tell young people who are, or maybe are aspiring people in media. It's like you forfeit a degree of your fandom when you choose to do this job. And so game days are different and your experience consuming sports is different. Mm-hmm. But I'll never complain about it. But there are also times where you just make decisions of what's more important in life. And sometimes family and other things like that are going to take precedent over certain extras. And maybe I'm just at a point in my career where I have the luxury to be able to make those decisions now. So I don't know, man. I'll be watching the game on Saturday. And then afterwards, I'm sure I'll probably be at my house. I'll fire up a live stream. Maybe I'll get a while here and drive over to Oxford, Neal. Maybe I'll be in that number. Who knows? I
hadn't seen you here in forever. So
I know. I haven't been to Vaught Hemingway since the 2005 game. Jamarcus went off on that day. It was not as I remember, it was not a great Ole Miss team, and LSU's offense went off that day.
Yeah, Vaught Hemingway's changed a lot since then.
Yeah,
it's changed.
Just I've seen on TV.
It's changed a good bit. Last thing about you, we'll get into the game. You do multiple shows a day. Is it ever difficult for you to, when you're mostly talking about LSU, is it difficult for you to keep it original?
No, because I think and I guess just for context, so like I do a live stream every morning. I do my 3-hour afternoon radio show, and I'm also the host of Locked on LSU, of which I produce at least one, generally 2 episodes per day. So I am doing a lot of different content, but I think the most important thing is remaining consistent in your points of view. Because if you start to contradict yourself, that's how you start to weave a web that's hard to undo. But the way I look at it more so, Neal, is be present for the audience whenever, in whatever format they want. There's some people that want YouTube short form videos. There are some people who want my live YouTube long form. There are some people who want the more informality of a Q&A like my live stream in the morning. There's some people that like the compactness of Locked on LSU, which is 27 minutes, boom, perfectly packaged and easily digestible. So I always just think of it in those terms. I'm delivering the same message just in a lot of different formats on different platforms, so the audience can choose which they prefer to consume. I believe in the digital age, man. When consumers and the audience have options, you have to be present for them whenever and wherever and however they want you. So that's just my approach to it. I'm not saying that I'm right, and I realize I probably work a ton, way more than I actually need to, but I enjoy what I do, man. I produce way more than I consume. So I don't really spend my time listening or watching other people's content. It's not that it's bad or I'm not interested. It's just
No,
I spend my life on this side of the camera and the microphone. So and I really enjoy what I do, and I've been fortunate to have a lot of success over the years.
Yeah, you have for sure. All right, let's jump into LSU and Ole Miss. I mean, I think when we looked at the schedule at the beginning of the season, I remember thinking this is a real chance these are 2 undefeated teams playing each other at the end of September in a game that, I mean, it's way too early to call it a CFP qualifier or something like that, but it's got some college football playoff ramifications potentially. I mean, I guess there's a world where both of these teams end up losing 3 or 4 games regardless, but the schedule shapes up. The winner of this has a kind of a nice path to get to presumably 10 wins, right?
Yeah. Well, listen, if LSU ends up in a situation, Neal, where they're a 3 or 4 loss team, that is an abject failure. I mean, that is a disaster.
Yep.
To say this in a way that Ole Miss fans who are watching would understand it, LSU effectively is following the path this year that Ole Miss did a year ago, where you had the 5th-year senior quarterback, you realized an opportunity, your boosters got pot committed, and you went all in. And I'm not one that would ever say, oh, you bought a roster like it's a derogatory thing. It's the culture. What's your commitment to winning? So Ole Miss was all in last year, and I don't think to a person there's anyone who's associated with Ole Miss that would tell you they were happy with the way the season went last year.
No, they would call it failure.
It was.
It's nuanced, that word, but at the end of the day, if you set a goal, I have this battle with people sometimes about a personal thing with me. And I understand why it bothers them, but at the end of the day, if you set a goal and you don't achieve that goal, that's failure. Now, it doesn't mean that you need to be like executed in the town square or something,
right.
But it doesn't mean that you can't have future success, or that, that you don't look back on that and go, hey, there were some really cool things in that season. Like for Ole Miss, they last year, they didn't make the playoff, and that was failure. It doesn't take away from the achievement of blowing out Georgia at home in that environment that day. It doesn't take away from the fact that you won 10 games for the third year, and 10 games or more for the third time in 4 years, that you've established yourself as a program that's no longer looked at as a middle of the pack program in the league. There's no question about that. It doesn't change the fact that you went to the Gator Bowl and won it. There were still achievements that you can celebrate, but when you boil it down, that was a team that was built to go to the playoffs and make a run in the playoffs, and it didn't do it because it lost a couple of games, maybe 3 games that they shouldn't have lost.
All of them. They had no business losing any of the games they lost.
Yeah.
They were better than the 3 teams that beat them.
Yeah.
And I don't think we need to litigate that, but LSU is in a similar situation. They have the 5th-year senior quarterback returning. They have some really good Harold Perkins coming off of injury. Whit Weeks is a preseason All-American. They have some really good talent. Aaron Anderson was your leading receiver a year ago. He's back. They have some really good pieces, core pieces. and they just went ham in the transfer portal. And, Neal, when we were at media days this year, the thing that I found most interesting, and I always look at in July whenever we convene at media days, you and I know the team we cover deep. Like, I could ask you anything about any of the 85 scholarship guys at Ole Miss, and you will know nuance that I have no idea. Like, same with me with LSU. But we have a surface level knowledge of the rest of the league. I go to that event thinking, all right, let me get a deeper knowledge of the other 15 teams. And the thing that was so fascinating was the lack of awareness from people around the conference of what LSU did in the portal and how good Garrett Nussmeier was a year ago. Whatever the perception may be, he's the only returning 4,000-yard passer in the country. He was the leading returning passer in college football. And then LSU went in the transfer portal and spent a ton of money to sign what was by a mile the best portal class in the country. So you can look at metrics like, SP plus or blue chip ratio. And I think a lot of those metrics, Neal, have struggled to keep up with the impact of the portal. I'll give you an example. Sage Ryan is starting at Ole Miss right now. Sage Ryan was not a good player here. I don't mean to be derogatory. He went through a lot. He went through a hamstring injury that cost him early in his career. He played out of position because he was a team guy. He played boundary corner, which he is not. Had his best season a year ago playing safety, which is a more natural position, but they effectively traded Sage Ryan for AJ Halsey, who was an all Big 12 performer a year ago at Houston and is maybe the best defensive player on LSU's team right now. And that's a mouthful considering who they have. This is a dramatic upgrade. But AJ Halsey was a 3-star coming out of high school who started his career in New Mexico. But right now, he is a dramatic upgrade over Sage Ryan. That's the kind of thing that I could go through every position across LSU's roster and tell you that's how they've improved. So back to where we started, 3 or 4 loss, that would be an abject failure for this team. And LSU's already done the heavy lifting of winning at Clemson because it bought them the margin. It bought them sort of the buffer that they needed as they make their way through conference play. Because if this team finishes less than 6-2 in the league, something went terribly wrong. And I think they're a lot better than Ole Miss too, Neal. I think LSU, I'm not trying to jump to the end of the episode here, but I think LSU 1-85 is a much better team and should win easily on Saturday. If they don't have that result, pretty much every Saturday they go out, it's going to be a pretty big failure for this team.
It was one of the interesting things that Lane Kiffin said Monday, and he kind of did it repeatedly. I do this thing every Monday after his press conference, what he said, what he meant. I take the transcript.
I like that. Yeah.
Come in behind it with, here was the jab. Here was, I thought he did 2 things. I thought he took the pressure that was on Ole Miss a year ago in this game and tried to put it on LSU for the reasons you just laid out. And then I thought I asked him, I was like, hey, Lane, this game's been really close the last few years. The home team wins, but it's always really close. Is that because the rosters are kind of similar? He's like, I don't know, man. They put a lot more guys in the NFL. I thought that was his way of saying, I don't know, maybe they haven't coached as well as we've coached.
Not last year. That Ole Miss roster last year, Neal, just for context, so your audience knows, I picked Ole Miss as a playoff team a year ago, and I picked them to win in Baton Rouge. So I'm not coming at it from a purple and gold sunglasses, cold poosh guy. I realized what LSU's roster was a year ago, and Ole Miss losing to Kentucky was an abomination.
Yep.
They never trailed at LSU which your audience knows, until overtime. Failures in the red zone against Florida, going forward on 4th down. If you just kick field goals, you win that game. But I would also say, Neal, look at Ohio State a year ago. Ohio State and Ole Miss were the 2 teams that invested more heavily in the portal than any in the country. And do you remember the narrative around Ohio State for much of last year? It was why can't Chip Kelly figure out the offense? And they lost 2 games. But by the end of the year, he had figured it out, and they rolled to a national championship. So a lot of it is just getting in that tournament at the end of the year. But I liked Ole Miss a lot last year, and I've used for my audience Ole Miss really as a roadmap to say, look, this is what Ole Miss did last year is what you did now. And by the way, all those guys, Walter Nolan, Prince Umanmielen, Chris Paul, Amos, Trey Harris, all those transfer guys, they're all gone. And by the way, that's LSU next year.
Yeah,
you're going to lose all these mercenaries that you had, and you should expect to step back. And that's kind of what I'm looking at with Ole Miss this year too.
Interesting. All right, we'll start there. I was going to ask about LSU, but I'll get your impressions of Ole Miss. 4-0, dangerously close to a loss against Arkansas. I mean, right there on the balls on the racket. It's wild.
Yeah.
I mean, Arkansas is going to end up being a complete train wreck. And they're a couple of plays, and two plays count. Every play counts. But a couple of plays from being in a completely different boat Saturday against Notre Dame. But
Ooh.
yeah, I mean, that's crazy. When you think about you literally just change a couple of things and they're 4-0, probably ranked 15th in the country with Notre Dame coming to town, and that place would be bonkers. It just shows you the margin sometimes between not only winning and losing, but program momentum and a program being dead in the water. It's wild when you think about it in those regards. What have you thought about Ole Miss? They won at Kentucky, pretty close game, beat Arkansas in a close game, blew out Tulane Saturday. What have you thought of the Rebels?
Yeah, I've actually watched I didn't see game one because why would I? But I watched each of the next three. It's just LSU's played at night, Ole Miss has played during the day, so I've actually had a good chance to watch a lot of Ole Miss this year, and in anticipation, knowing that this game was coming. I can't get Ole Miss's defensive performance against Arkansas out of my brain. I mean, giving up 500 yards, and that first half was just track meet up and down the field. I just look at an Ole Miss defense that is dramatically different from that team a year ago that was so talented and I think capable of beating literally anybody in the country.
Yeah.
So I don't have a lot of confidence that Ole Miss's defense is going to go and put LSU in a chokehold on Saturday. The flip side of it is, and this is what's super interesting. I was not super high on Simmons coming into the year, Neal, and it wasn't a knock on Simmons. I think it was just the tact I took with all the quarterbacks in the league this year. So if we can go back to July, we're at media days, and all the conversation is Arch and DJ Lagway and Lenora Sellers and Simmons. And people are sitting there saying, is this the best quarterback year in the SEC since 2013? I mean, you remember that year, Neal. 2013 was Manziel coming off the Heisman. McCarron had won 2 natties. Aaron Murray left, as a 4-year starter, holding all the SEC records. You had Connor Shaw, who won 11 games twice. You had James Franklin, the player at Missouri. Mettenberger was at LSU. Yep. Dak was at Mississippi State. I mean, probably the best year in the quarterback season, top to bottom, in the history of the conference. People were comparing this year to that. I'm going, Arch has 95 career passing attempts. Lenora Sellers couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat for half of last year. DJ Lagway's numbers mirrored Michael Van Buren's at Mississippi State. And the only road game he played was at 2-10 Florida State. Like, Austin Simmons had a great touchdown drive against Georgia, but what do we really know? Like, can we pump the brakes and get a little more of a sample size? So it's not a knock on Simmons. It was more just like, let me wait and see, like I was with much of this league. But I'm interested in Trinidad Chambliss. Like, it looks like he's more comfortable, a better fit. But I have a theory, and I'm not married to this, Neal, but I'll bounce it off of you to tell me if this makes sense.
Okay.
So Chambliss obviously super impressive, man. 300 yards passing, 100 yards rushing. What did I see? That hadn't been done in like 50 years or something at Ole Miss.
It'd been a minute. Yeah. Arch.
Yeah. I don't care what the circumstance is and who it's against. That's impressive. But I look and I go, all right, dude was at Division II Ferris State, and he played against, an Arkansas team that hadn't prepared for him when he came in the game, which that can throw anybody off. Crushed LSU last year when they faced Marcel Reed. They just were not prepared for him coming off the bench at A&M. And then you got Tulane, which is a G5 team. Is it possible that Trinidad Chambliss was the beneficiary of maybe good circumstance when he came into the game against Arkansas and then played a lesser opponent and has gotten a lot of hype, but what you're going to see on Saturday is a completely different animal, especially with now 2 weeks of game film for LSU to look at with him specifically? I look at that and go, he's been impressive, but this is a completely different level, almost in the same way of like when DJ Lagway came to Baton Rouge. That was his first real road game in the SEC, and he threw 5 interceptions. Like, sometimes things go that way when you face something really hard for the first time. And I think this is the first really hard test that Chambliss is going to face, assuming he's going to start. I'm assuming he is, yeah?
I would assume so. And, look, I think Lane told the truth on Monday when he said if Simmons is 100%, he's going to play. He's their quarterback. Because this team, and these are fighting words in Oxford already. This team has a higher ceiling. Well, no. Simmons has a higher ceiling than Chambliss. Simmons can make every throw. I mean, in terms of just the physical aspect of being a quarterback, he can make every throw. You have to defend the whole field with him at quarterback. I'm not sure with Chambliss that's the case. Now, Chambliss is more poised. He's older. He's played a lot more football. D2, sure, but football. He's played more football. Austin Simmons is 19 years old. So I think Lane's telling the truth when he says that. Although when he says that, it's very clear that he's saying that Austin's not 100%. And if he's not 100%, they're going to play Chambliss. And yes, and then Lane says the part you just said about LSU. He said, this is the best team. This is the best team we faced. This is the best defense we faced. He was having some fun with it, but telling the truth at the same time.
Sure.
Referring to the acquisitions that LSU made and the financial investment that LSU made on its defense. He talked about basically 6 defensive linemen and 3 DBs that, hey, they brought those guys in, and it's the best LSU defense that they've had since he's been at Ole Miss, which dates back to 2020 in the Orgeron era. He said all of those things, and I think those things.
It is the best defense that he's seen.
Yeah, and so
by a mile.
He's telling the truth, and he referred to this game as a challenge several times. So yeah, I don't think what you just said is outlandish. Arkansas is not good on defense. If they were, they'd be undefeated because they've been a very good offensive team.
Yeah.
And Tulane, as much as respect as I have for John and a lot of the coaches there, I mean, I have friends on that staff. I mean, I cheer for them when they play. They from a personnel standpoint didn't match up with Ole
especially on the line of scrimmage. It was so evident from the first series. Tulane could not match Ole Miss on the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, so I don't think what you just said is outlandish. This is going to be a big test. I mean, it's why if Ole Miss can figure out a way to beat LSU, I actually think they're going to the playoff because even if they lose to Oklahoma and lose to Georgia, I don't think they're losing in November. And so they're not losing to Washington State. That would put them at 10-2. It wouldn't be the greatest 10-2 in the world, but 10-2 probably gets them in. I mean, it's definitely a huge game here. And on the flip side, if you told me Ole Miss loses on Saturday, I'll tell you that I don't really see a very clear path to the playoff.
Well, if Ole Miss wins on Saturday, Neal, where do you think the 2 losses, if they went 10-2, for example, like where do you think the 2 losses would come?
I mean, at Georgia, at Oklahoma, that 2-game swing. Those are
back to back, right?
Those are back to back. They have an open date, then Washington State.
That's brutal.
That's a dub.
Yeah.
Then you have the 2 games, and then you come back from those games. You get South Carolina at home, the Citadel at home, Florida at home, and at Mississippi State. The next hardest game, in my opinion, is the one in Starkville.
Yeah, you got to avoid the landmine.
And
which
is
like
to that last year, right?
And I guess that's maybe, and honestly, maybe I'm just a prisoner of that, Neal, when I'm looking at this Ole Miss team. And I mean, I know you brought me to talk about LSU, but you were asking about Ole Miss.
I want to talk because I know where you're going. I'm not interrupt you very quickly. I fell for this a little bit. I'm not saying you're falling for something. Don't get me wrong. I did this the week of the Ole Miss Arkansas game this year, where I kept going, man, this is going to be a blowout. This is going to be a blowout. I don't care who's the quarterback. It's going to be a blowout because I couldn't get the stupid Arkansas Ole Miss game from last year out of my head, where Ole Miss scored 60 points and it felt like they could have scored 160.
But that was a great Ole Miss team. I don't think this is a great Ole Miss team.
Right.
And Neal, I mean, the biggest difference is you could make a case that Jackson Dart, I don't want to be blasphemous, but I mean, you could make a case that he's the best quarterback in the history of the program. I understand the Mannings, fully aware.
Yeah.
Fully aware. But Jackson Dart was awesome.
He was.
Last year. There was talent everywhere. And all of the, I can't, like, the knock on Ole Miss forever was when they would play Georgia or Bama or whoever. Like, they always had athlete. It was just the line of scrimmage. They couldn't win at the line of scrimmage. Last year, they fixed the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And those guys are gone.
On one side.
So I don't know, man. I just, when you're unsettled at quarterback, you're not as good defensively. I mean, watching Arkansas go up and down the field makes me think LSU could do that. Georgia could do that. Oklahoma could do that. Lenore Sellers could certainly do that to you. I don't know about Florida, but what challenge Mississippi State? I just think there's landmines everywhere for Ole Miss. I just think, and by the way, that's what I keep trying to tell LSU fans for next year. It's like, look at Ole Miss, because you are following that path. You're doing this year what they did a year ago. And then next year, when all those guys are gone, Neal, it's the same reason why I sat here and I've yelled about Bama is burning for 2 years. You don't get to lose half of your roster in 1 year and not feel it. It's just not how this sport works. So I don't know, man. I know I pissed off a lot of Ole Miss fans in 2022 when I picked LSU on the Monday of that game week. And I was right.
No, you've pretty much nailed this game the last several years, except last year.
Last year I had Ole Miss in Baton Rouge. And by the way, Ole Miss should have won the game in Baton Rouge. Yeah. They were the better team. But Lane said it yesterday. Or maybe it wasn't yesterday, but I heard him say it. They couldn't put together a 4-minute offense and finish the game. They gave a good quarterback another opportunity, and Nussmeier made him pay. They went to overtime, and LSU won the game. No, but
couldn't get him on the ground when they had a chance. Sunterra and Perkins had a shot at him and couldn't bring him down. And had he, it would have been 4th and 20-something, and they probably would have been okay.
Yeah. I mean,
but that's football. It's why you can't do the one play. It's like you can't do the X team is one play away from this or one play away from that. Well, those plays count. It's like when a run in the 3rd inning is worth the same as a run in the 9th inning. You can't just go, well, you blew it in the 9th. Well, the 9th counts.
Yes. The 9th does in fact count. And so does the 10th when they give you the stupid runner on second base, which I hate, but we don't need to start on that.
Such a bad rule. I hate it.
It's a terrible rule. What are we doing? You know how hard it is to get a runner on second base? You're just going to give someone second base.
The whole inning is completely different if you have a leadoff double.
Yes. I'll just give you
everybody a leadoff double.
Stupid. Yeah, I hate it so much.
Yeah, I hate it. And then to prove how bad it is, they get into the postseason, and we don't do that anymore. I'm like, so you're admitting out loud that this is stupid.
This is a stupid rule.
It's like college football's overtime. I hate it with a passion. I'm one of the few in our field that says it out loud. Number one, I hate the way it starts. But when you get to the 3rd overtime, okay, now you have to go for 2, and now it's nothing but 2-point plays.
You're not playing football anymore. So I hate the fact you've taken special teams out of the game. You've taken clock strategy out of the game, clock management out of the game, field position. You've removed you're playing a situational scrimmage at one end of the field. I agree with you completely. Yeah, that's why I hate shootouts in soccer and hockey. 100%. I know people love that.
No,
but it's like
the worst.
You're not playing the sport. Determined to win or playing the sport, not some situational contest.
No, my son's team, when he was playing at Oxford, they played Tupelos. They're bitter rival. All the kids knew each other if they played club together. And it was they played, 90 minutes of soccer. They were tied. They played the 2 extra periods, still tied. And now you make it a shootout. So we're going to be here for all this time, freezing our asses off to watch this game. And now we're going to decide it on free kicks.
PKs. Let's go.
And in college football, you get a game that goes 4 hours. It's been a classic. Both teams have made plays, and both teams have left opportunities on the table. You got all this drama. Okay, now we're going to make it about 2-point plays.
Oh my God!
Why?
Like Auburn, Texas A&M last year. So stupid.
Just let them keep playing, and eventually somebody will win the game. All right, it drives me nuts. Or just make the regular season, let them finish in a tie. I don't know what to tell you, but the way you do it doesn't work. I hate it.
Agreed.
It's actually one of my things when people say, what do you look for in a game? I always hope that nobody gets hurt badly and that we don't do stupid overtimes, that all we write about is the overtime. I hate that so much. All right, let me ask about LSU, because the knock on LSU so far this year is that for all of the talent they have offensively, there are times when their offense looks like it just sort of disappears. What do you read into that?
Yeah, I think let's throw out Louisiana Tech. I think we all understand what those games are and why they're played and just whatever.
Yeah.
I think with Clemson and Florida, there has been a lot made of Nussmeier's torso. I don't believe that was really a thing. Yeah, I'm not saying he wasn't dealing with something. I'm saying that didn't limit him. That didn't limit the play call. That didn't limit what they were doing. In the same way that during fall camp, when Brian Kelly said that Nuss, there was all these rumors that he tears ACL, whatever, and Brian Kelly tells us that he has patella tendonitis. Okay. Well, like, it's a thing in the literal sense that it's not nothing, but it's not something that's limiting him in any way, as you can clearly see.
Right.
My contention is that LSU went into those two games against elite defensive fronts with 5 new starters on the offensive line, knowing the only way they were going to lose those games is if they let those defensive lines wreck their offensive line and sack Nussmeier. It's what happened to LSU at Florida last year. I don't know if anybody remembers that game, but LSU lost in Gainesville. Nussmeier was sacked 7 times, 11 TFLs. LSU controlled the ball for 42 minutes, more time of possession, double the amount of first downs. I mean, look at the box score, cover up the score, and you go, they lost this game? Yeah. It's stunning. But it's because Florida's defensive line wrecked the game. And I think LSU's coaching staff was smart enough to know that in those two situations, with as good as LSU's defense is, they could play a style of game and win it that way. Now, you're not going to be able to do that against everybody. And I think this is one of those ones where they're going to have to go score. So they're going to have to be a little more aggressive offensively. And that ability is there, man. They're loaded at receiver, and but the giant question, Neal, like this will be the question everyone should ask going into every LSU game is, how does Team X, in this case Ole Miss, how does their defensive line match up against LSU's offensive line? Because that's the story.
It's the whole game. Yeah, I agree with you. I've been saying that this week. That's the game. If you watch one thing, watch LSU's offensive front against Ole Miss's defensive front. Ole Miss believes that it has a really good defensive line. They love Xavier Harris. They love Sontaran Perkins. They think Will Eccles is coming along. They love Cam Franklin's potential, and he played really well against Tulane. But you need those guys to play really well against LSU. And if they do, you got a hell of a shot. If they don't, you don't.
Watching, I can't. And maybe it's not fair, but I can't get out of my head watching Arkansas offensively do what they did. One other thing that's certainly worth keeping an eye on this week, Neal, is LSU's running back Caden Durham sprained his ankle this past week.
Yeah.
Brian Kelly said on Monday that it's not a high ankle. He's day-to-day. But if he's limited, they're going to have to get creative at running back. So Caleb Jackson's there. He's a junior now from Baton Rouge. He just has never really come on. They've got Harlan Berry, who is a 5-star, who is the number 1 running back in the country. He's from New Orleans. He's a freshman, but they're just bringing him along very slowly, right? Like mop-up duty, carry, stuff like that right now. And the interesting thing is the name you probably need to know is Juwan Johnson.
Yeah, I was going to ask you.
So he wears number 8, and it's a really interesting story. So he was a high school athlete in Lafayette who left. He was their quarterback, and he left LCA, Lafayette Christian Academy, as the state's all-time leader in yardage and touchdowns. Bro, in Louisiana, like, dude knows what to do with the ball in his hands. But he signed.
It's not somebody from Ruston that has that record, but regardless,
he signs with LSU as a cornerback. Right, so he played some cornerback, and then he also, last year when John Emery tore his ACL, they moved him to running back middle of the season, or early in the season. After the season, they moved him to quarterback. I don't know if you heard, but LSU lost a quarterback commit last year in the 11th hour and ended up not signing a quarterback. And
did hear about that.
So they were really thin at quarterback. So Juwan Johnson ended up playing exclusively quarterback in the spring, and that's what he was going to do this year. And then they lost their freshman running back, JT Lindsay, who was arrested. He's not with the team right now. So they were thin at running back again. So they moved him back to running back. So the point is, all that to say, you don't need to memorize that. There's not a test. Great athlete, but has played like 5 different positions already in 2 years. When he has the ball in his hands, he knows what to do with it. He's a very instinctive athlete. But he also just doesn't have a ton of experience as a college running back. So a game experience. So that's going to be really interesting to watch if Caden Durham doesn't play. The other thing, too, that your audience should know, LSU does get really creative with how they mix in the run. Like Xavier Thomas, who I think you all probably know, is from New Orleans, started his career at Mississippi State. Xavier Thomas is a receiver, but they will motion him into the pistol and hand him the ball out of the backfield as a running back. He might actually, I need to look at the stats. He might be the second leading rusher on the team right now. But they get creative in the way that they work a lot of those guys into the run game. So it's just he's expected to be a little different.
Thomas is third in rushing at LSU. To show you, I mean, how much this is, and Ole Miss has this too, right? Caden Durham's 52 carries for 213 yards. The next guy is Barry with 15 carries for 87 yards. Ole Miss is the same way. I mean, after Kewan Lacey, it's Trinidad Chambliss. I mean, Logan Diggs has 13 carries for 117 yards, and almost all of that has come in sort of mop-up roles, at the end of blowouts against Georgia State and Tulane. I mean, he hasn't really gotten significant snaps in that Arkansas or Kentucky games.
Yeah, I'm looking. So Barry's got 87 yards and Xavier Thomas has 86. So they're right there neck and neck with each other. And Harlem had his most extensive action this past weekend against Southeastern Louisiana. So that's just one to watch is how LSU sort of affects the running game depending on what happens with Caden Durham.
So you like LSU big or LSU in a close one? How do you sort of see this?
I don't know that I would say big, Neal. I just you're right. Look, the home team's won the last 5 in the series. We all know that.
Yep.
I think Lane is a great play caller, and I just wouldn't be surprised if this goes the way that game in 22 did, where if you remember, Ole Miss scored early in that game, and I think Lane is brilliant at scripting the start of a game, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if Ole Miss, even if they get the ball, go right down the field and score, has an early lead. I just think LSU's defense is too good, and as the game unfolds, it's going to be really difficult, not only for Ole Miss, I think for everybody that plays this team, to consistently put together sustained drives. I mean, we can laugh about Clemson being what they are, in the way they've lost games. They got a 5th-year senior quarterback, 2 all-conference receivers. I mean, they had 4 returning starting offensive linemen. On their home field, Clemson put together 1 sustained drive in 4 quarters against it. 1. They scored 10 points. Their field goal came after an LSU fumble. So LSU's defense is really good, man. I wouldn't blow smoke. They're really good. I mean, they're really good. And so I think Ole Miss's opportunity in the game is probably to match that defensive effort and play a game in the upper teens, low 20s, maybe like a 24-20 type game. But I just think LSU is going to end up, as you move through the second quarter and into the second half, the defensive intensity will probably just take control of that game, and LSU is just going to be able to keep Ole Miss at arm's length. I'm not telling you this is like a 3-score game or anything. I'm not predicting that. But I think it's one of those where you look in the second half, and even though the score may be close, and you could always be a scoop and score away, it probably just feels like LSU keeps Ole Miss at arm's length in the second half and wins a game. Probably like a 28-17 type game, so 28-20, something like that.
All right, I don't have you but a few more minutes. I do want to get your thoughts just kind of on the league as a whole. We always do this thing about, hey, the power of the SEC, everybody can beat everybody, and sometimes that's not true. And last year it kind of turned out to be true with some of the upsets. When you look at the league right now, is there anybody that we're not giving enough credit to? I mean, should we be taking Missouri more seriously? Should we be taking Vanderbilt more seriously? Is there anybody that we're just missing on, or how do you just sort of see the overall league race?
I have my preseason order finish on a sticky note sitting literally here on my desk. I'll run. You want to hear it? I'll tell you, this was my preseason order finish. I had LSU beating Texas in the SEC championship game. I was big on LSU because of what we talked about a bit ago. They were proven at quarterback in a league this year where a lot of people weren't. And I had Texas number 2 just because of their schedule. I think Texas's schedule plays out for them. I had Georgia 3, Texas A&M 4, Alabama 5, Missouri, Ole Miss 6, 7, Tennessee 8, South Carolina 9, Florida 10, Oklahoma 11, Auburn, Vandy, Kentucky, Arkansas, Mississippi State. The two that, as I read through that, you can tell is probably the most wrong on were Tennessee and Oklahoma. I know Tennessee's already lost to Georgia, but I think the quarterback thing with Nico and Aguilar, like that to happen when it did, it's just, man, how do you? But credit Josh Heupel, they've made it through that.
He's a terrific offensive coach, man.
Yeah, and then I still think Oklahoma. One of the reasons I had Oklahoma as low as I did, Neal, was their schedule. I don't know if you've actually studied it and looked. Like it is.
It's brutal.
It's brutal. There's just landmines everywhere. Even as improved as they are clearly this year from a year ago, I don't know how they get through this thing with any fewer than 3 losses, just because it is such a brutal slate. But those are the two I tell you I think I missed on. I think they are better than what I thought they were going to be.
All right, last thing. Florida State beats Alabama in the opener. You live up to your.
You hated to see it, didn't you? You just hated to see that.
I just knew what was coming, and I couldn't wait. And I think you delivered on Monday. Maybe it was Tuesday, but you delivered.
It was Monday. Oh, it was Monday, brother.
You delivered very quickly. Tell me about finding the white horse. You had to climb the ladder to get up on the horse, and I'm not making fun because I would have had someone have to lift me up and put me on said horse.
Yeah.
Just the whole production of that had to be something you had to have planned ahead a little bit.
No. So I said on Friday, I said, don't y'all go lose. Don't y'all go lose to Florida State. Because if you lose to Florida State, you better believe you're going to find my behind on a white horse in a Chief Osceola uniform, throwing a flaming spear in the ground, doing a war chant.
Yeah.
And Neal, I am nothing if not a man of my word. I am a man of my word. If I lose a bet, I will pay up.
Yeah.
No matter how awful, embarrassing, or expensive it may be.
Yeah.
And if I tell my audience I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it. So I put out the call on social, like, I need a white horse. and a guy I went to high school with messages me, shout out to Trey Erie. He's like, hey, you really need a horse? I'm like, yeah, man, I need a white horse.
I need a white horse.
So he says, hey, look, I was talking to Aaron Honore. He's another guy who went to our high school, Catholic High in Baton Rouge. And Aaron and Trey Honore are brothers. Trey's used to work with me, he's a year younger. Anyway, great family. They live not far from me. He's like, hey, look, the Honores, their family, they have like 20 horses on their property. And they have a white horse. And they said, if you want to do whatever, like, come on. I was like, okay. So then the issue became I had to get the spear and the Chief Osceola costume. Well, I don't know if you know, Neal, like, it's really hard to find an authentic Seminole spear.
I've never gone searching, but I would think that it would not be something that you could get at Walmart.
So I think my wife, who's super artsy, she got like what had to be like a shovel, the pole from a shovel. She took cardboard and cut them out in long pieces and got these little bags of feathers and hot glued them all on in this alternating pattern. If you go see the picture, you could see to mimic. And then the spear is a garden shovel that I took duct tape and just grill tape and just taped on the end. Looks great though. It looks the part.
It did.
And then Trey Erie, the guy who first reached out about getting the horse, said one year he and his family went to Halloween as the Village People, and his wife was the Indian, so she had this Indian headdress, and he's like, Becca said you could use the headdress if you want. I'm like, yes. And then I happen to have in my attic for probably the last 30 years a Warwick Dunn Florida State jersey. Warwick Dunn went to my high school.
Yeah.
So years ago, I bought a Warwick Dunn Florida State jersey on eBay, like literally 30 years ago. And it's been in a box in my attic. And I was like, I hope I still have that thing. Went up there, grabbed it, and there you have it. Now, the step ladder getting onto the horse, I make no apologies for that. All right. I am as city as they come. And I am not trying to get out here and get bucked off a horse. I'm not trying to end up hurt or worse, which I won't even say. We were going to take this thing very sensibly. I'm not an idiot. I may act like an idiot on air, but I'm not an idiot. And I have a wife and a child and wanted to make sure that I'm around for them. None of that is compromised because of a stupid radio stunt. But Any opportunity I have to take Alabama's fans and shove their collective nose in the pile of horse poop that they are staring at, I will do it with glee. And I hope I get the opportunity this weekend when they lose to Georgia.
Well, I'll look forward to that. I will say that the horse tolerated you quite well. It
Oh,
was
the horse was great.
He was great.
Yeah.
Or she was
Beautiful.
great. It was
beautiful animal. Great animal.
Matt, as always, man, great talking to you. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
My pleasure, Neal. Thanks, man.
That was Matt Moscona, ESPN Radio in Louisiana. After further review, all those different shows, Locked On, LSU. Appreciate his time today. Appreciate Ryan McGee's time. Thanks to everybody in the chat. You guys made this fun. I know sometimes when the shows aren't, quote, live, the stream isn't as enjoyable, but you guys participated today. Really appreciate that. Butcher versus the dance instructor at 12:30 today. Caroline McCready, Greg Jones make their picks. I taped with with Pete DeWeese last night. Normally we tape on Wednesday night. We taped on Tuesday night. So have Pete's Pigskin preview to you. I think he agrees more with me. This is more of a kind of a toss-up game on Saturday. We'll have that to you later in the week. We'll have BlueSky Live in audio form with Jeffrey Wright tomorrow, probably taping early. I've got a basketball commitment in the morning, so we'll tape some early, and then Chase and Jeffrey will do the meat of the show, and then we'll have hand raise guys Thursday afternoon as we start to wind down the week and get ready for LSU and Ole Miss on Saturday at 2:30. Again, thanks to everybody for being with us in the show. Talk to you guys again tomorrow. Take it easy. Bye.